Welcome everyone to Checkpoint 5, the final fight, this one being a modified version of the old one fight. So the difference here primarily is basically old one's restriction on how many times in a row or even just behavioral modifications has been removed, especially with hand slams like you see here. If he wanted to, he could just do another hand slam, but he usually goes hand slam into this laser, and then he can go directly into another hand slam if he wanted to. But yep, here we go. This checkpoint is generally speaking a checkpoint that people really don't like to do in groups, and I will show you, and you'll see why that is once we go through the first phase here, but generally speaking, the first phase of Checkpoint 5 is everything you would expect. Now, for the head section, and a lot of people have trouble here, I am an extremely aggressive player. I'm used to playing Barbarian back when Nightmare Crystalline was the only thing that was around, so I play up in his face all the time. Now what we're going to see here is the reason why people don't like doing this in a group. Old One turns off all abilities, or should I say puts them on cooldown, and it spawns a Demon Lord that you have to deal with because he's going to come with you if you decide to ignore him and focus on the feet. And having these trails of fire on the ground is a gigantic pain. So really all you're doing here with the Demon Lord the first time is you're stalling to get your hero boost, your Nature's Gift, your overcharge back up, so you can then kill him in a timely manner and get back to facing Old One. Now right here you're going to see a fade. I actually lost the first third of this fight that I actually beat Old One on, so between here and the hand phase we're going to go to the actual run. So the other thing to note about Great Old One here is that he has lots of resistances. So you're going to want to have two different damage types in order to deal with him, because he has massive generic resistance on both his feet and his head, and he's going to have one crystal on the chest has an elemental resist, so poison, fire, and electric. So that's going to be rather important that you have at least two kinds of damage to deal with this fight. And really this is just a lot of practice. I personally find that it's easiest to use a damage pet rather than a propeller cat when doing this. Some people will use a propeller cat, but generally speaking I put on a Zamira's mount because I have a weapon that is entirely spec'd into poison damage, which means I need to change the way I operate. So once again we're back at the head phase, and you just need to make sure you know how to deal with every move that Old One throws out. And one other thing that you need to keep in mind is I'm clearing these mobs a lot because the mages can actually summon harbingers. And the last thing you want is to find out there's a harbinger on a platform that you've left alone for long enough that a Jin has decided to turn it gold. Now we have finally reached the worst part of the fight. Old One not only turns off your ability at this part, he fully disables your abilities at this part. So I'm not getting overcharge back, and at this point it's all just what I'm able to do raw damage without overcharge. And this is part of the reason why Apprentice is used in this fight, because if you were to use a Huntress and you lose your ability to Hawk Shot, or you're playing Gun Witch and you lose both Witch's Curse and 2 for the price of 1, or you're using Hermit and you lose Thorn's Shot and Nature's Gift. Apprentice is once you get to this third phase of the fight, Apprentice is the character that while he does lose a lot, he retains the most DPS and the most safety at the same time. Because, I mean, Monk, you lose hero boost, there goes most of your damage. And as you know, after this, I'm going to show why a certain character is absolutely dumb. But this is, generally speaking, just a matter of practice. How well do you understand what Old One's going to do, and how well can you avoid taking incidental damage that's going to leave you high and dry when the lasers come out, and you don't really have the ability to stop and heal. And that's all that there is for Old One. It's a straight, it's just an amped up Old One fight that you're going to need to practice for. And that's another problem that people might run into. If you're trying to use a fairy pet to out-heal Old One, that's not going to work, because as you just saw, the fight determined that I'd taken too much damage, and, well, it's just not going to let me use a fairy to heal anymore. Now, you can still cast the player heal, but fairies won't work. So now I'm at the last hand crystal. It's all going to be the game of baiting the hand out, and there it is. So I'm now on the last phase. And there we go. Ruth, this is a Nightmare TBR, and that is how it is done. So, like I said, we weren't getting out of this without the Barbarian absolutely butchering Old One. So here we go. Barbarian is just really good at Old One. Always has been. Probably always will be. Hawk Stance just lets you do dumb things to Old One. And then just the rest of Barbarian's kit just allows it to do kind of whatever it wants. There you see a Harbinger because I left a mage alone, like I mentioned earlier. But Barbarian is especially good at this fight, primarily due to the fact that you do so much damage here that you can be basically as aggressive as you want and lose as much HP as you want, as long as you don't die. Because, I mean, it's just going to get restored in probably like 15 seconds when you phase Old One. Because, I mean, as you can see here, I'm at almost no HP. It doesn't really matter, because, I mean, I'm going to wind up phasing Old One and restoring all my mana in probably about 10 more seconds. So right now, I'm just trying to bait out the right hand. Old One's not doing it because he's being annoying. Kill the mage. And then here come the hands. And there we go. So, phase and full HP and mana. And I can go back to being as absurd and obnoxious as I want. So just get in his face, do what Barbarian normally does. And there we go. First phase done. And the other really absurd part about this, Barbarian isn't actually going to lose that much in terms of abilities when Old One disables ability use. You can still Hawk Stance, you can still use Battle Pound. What you can't do is you can't use, or in my run of this, I could not use Drain Stance, and I could not use Electric Stance. So, I mean, it didn't actually drop my damage at all, because my Jack-in-the-Box is not relying on abilities to do damage. It's relying on Turtle Stance to not die, but as you've seen, like, this is the second time, maybe, that I've turned on Turtle Stance during this fight. and it hasn't really mattered at all. So Barbarian is just kind of makes a mess of Old One. Because I'm using Turtle Stance and I'm still outrunning the laser. Right here, I don't know why I turned on Lightning Stance there, must have been a fat finger. And so the rest of this fight is just going to be exactly what I've shown you before, because again, Old One doesn't really disable what makes Jack-in-the-Box Barbarian tick in this, because it's just having 8,000 tower damage with a Jack-in-the-Box. Does dirty things. So I'll let you watch the rest of the fight. Okay, I can't let that pass without comment. I just sat in the middle of both of the shockwaves and didn't take damage. So, just to show you how absurd this stuff is. A reminder, we're now on third phase where I don't have any abilities. Okay, yeah, and you can see I still can use Turtle Stance, I can still use Battle Pound, I can still use Tornado Stance, I can still use Hawk, so. Your standard Glacier Barb doesn't work well here, but, well, this version of Barb most certainly does. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you've learned something about running TBR through this video series, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Crystallize your actions.